Hi, I'm Megan, working in horticulture.co.uk, and today I'm going to be showing you how to divide and repot Venus flytraps. The best time of the year to repot and divide your Venus flytrap is in the winter or early spring whilst your plant is in dormancy. Dormancy is basically a winter rest for the plants, and like most herbaceous perennials, they will die back, losing all if not most of their leaves. During this time they will look quite straggly, as you can see from many of my collection, but they'll die down, they'll be a bit more tight hugging to the ground, and they'll have blackening leaves which you can simply pick off of the plants. Some may not die down completely, as some may stay quite nice, where others will die back quite a lot and you'll have little to no growth on them. During this time, whilst they're basically asleep, is the best time to repot, as there's little disturbance to the plant and its growth at this time of year. A good indicator into knowing when to divide and repot your Venus flytrap is either when the plant has outgrown its pot, such as this multiple divisions in a 7cm pot, which I'd like to divide and hopefully upgrade to a larger pot. Either a pot of seedlings, so this is a pot of seedlings which I sowed all of them from seed and they've remained in this pot, so now it's time to give them their own separate pots. Or even adult divisions which have split and divided, as you can see by the two crowns here. So there's two separate plants, of which I will take out and place into their own separate pots. But it's up to you when you decide in the winter time if you would like to repot them or not. Okay, so I'm firstly going to start off with my larger division, which is my yellow fuse tooth. So first of all, start with taking off the label, and then I'm simply going to grab it from the top like that and gently tease it out of the pot, like so. Flip it back over and you can break away the soil, like that. And then from that you'll have your Venus flytrap. So what you're looking out for is the healthy rhizomes, which are usually white or pink. So as you can see under here, two nice white rhizomes which have obviously grown together at one point, and I'm going to then split this up. So by doing that, I'm simply going to take my thumbs in between the divisions and carefully tease them away like that. So then I've got two separate plants, of which now I'm going to pot up. Okay, and now for the repotting. So I've decided to do this one close up just so you can see in better detail on how I pot up the plants. So the mix that I'm going to be using, and this is the first mix I'm going to show you, I've also got another one I'll show, and this is a mix of peat, perlite and Argentinian sphagnum moss, which is the long strands in it. And this is simply my peat reduced mix, as I'm aiming to go peat free due to the upcoming peat ban. So this just helps me reduce the amount of peat I use, and the Argentinian sphagnum moss is safe for all carnivorous plants, which I've been using this year and they have responded quite well. So this is the first mix that I'll be using on these two divisions here. So firstly, I'm going to take off any dead parts of the plant, if there is any to take off, like so. This is my first plant. Select my pot, so I'm going to be continuing to use the 9cm pot, one for each plant, as even though they're quite small now, they will be a lot bigger, which you can base on the size of the rhizome and obviously the size that the plant was before obviously it went into dormancy. In the growing season, these were quite large plants. So by simply selecting your pot, you're going to scoop up a little bit of mixture first, is what I like to do, like so. And then I'm going to place it on an angle, like that. And I'm going to place the plant in the middle, holding it like so. So it just kind of gives you a little bit of guidance of where you're going to place the plant. And then using your other hand, you're going to place the rest of the mixture in around the plant. You don't want to press it down too much so it compacts the plant, but you just want to do it so it will hold. And then once the plant is stabilised, you can just pack in the rest of the media around it. Like so, just very carefully moving the plant, filling up any gaps that you might see. Like so. That's my first one, so I try and get it as central as possible. And then obviously you're going to write out two labels, so I can place my first label back in the plant if I wanted to, like that. That's my yellow fuse tooth. And obviously I need to write out a second one for this one. Finally, I'm going to be showing you how to split up individual seedlings out of a pot. So as I mentioned before, this was a pot that I originally sowed a load of seeds in, which is a hybrid, and then obviously they've all grown, and now it's time to separate them and place them in their own pots. So once again, taking out the label, and I'm going to tease them out the pot, like that. As you can see, these ones are in my peat-free mix that I've been trialling out, which is the Argentinian moss mixed with perlite. So I'm going to take these out, and you're going to select and locate each of the plants. So once again, you're looking for that healthy rhizome, which is the nice white colour. And then you're going to place your plants to one side once you find them. And you just sift through the compost. Obviously, if you've got some of the smaller plants, then they might be harder to locate. So just kind of have a nice fine eye to look through. Some of them you might even be able to split and divide. So you see that one's got a little nice long rhizome there. For now, I'm just going to simply select the individual plants. You may notice that some of them are smaller than others, so that's a nice little small one there. And then you just keep it going through. Once you've selected all your plants from the mix, you can now repot them into individual pots. Okay, so now we're going to repot the seedlings. So I got 6 seedlings from this. A couple of them I could probably divide, but I'm going to leave them as chunks for now, and then obviously when they're older, split them again. So for the pot size I'm going to be using is the 7cm pot, as many of them are still really small, as being seedlings. Some of them have actually grown quite nicely, as you can see from this double rhizomed quite large seedling here, which I could pot up into the 9cm pots, as I said before, which I might do because this one's quite a nice chunky size, which should hopefully fill out the pot quite quickly. So the moss that I'm going to be using for this one is the Argentinian sphagnum moss mix, and I've mixed this one with perlite. So you could either use a peat and perlite mix, peat and sand mix, or even a pre-made carnivorous plant mix for your Venus flytraps, or you could either make up your own with sphagnum moss as well. So when it comes to sphagnum moss, you could either use it live or dried. So the Argentinian sphagnum moss is dried, and I like to buy this one as a bale, which means it's compressed and dried, which means I could get more use out of it when it's rehydrated. So I've gone for this one as I've got quite a lot of plants to repot. But if you've only got a couple, then you can use a pre-made mix or make up your own by getting some sphagnum moss or something similar. So now we're going to repot the seedlings. So I'm going to select the pot once again, take one of the seedlings, and using the very similar method as before. So with the mosses, you might find the long strands can be a little bit fiddly, so it does take some good time to use to. But simply place it in again, and then I'm going to use the same method where I'm placing it around. Don't worry if you cover the plants, why? Obviously it's a bit easier to hold in the 7cm, holding up just so it doesn't get buried. You may need to place it down, and then you're placing the moss around it, gently pressing it down as you go, just so it holds the plant in place, but you're not compacting it so much. Obviously it's restricting the root growth, and you simply just want to fill it up. So this is the original mix as well that I used when I sowed them as seeds, which is the Argentinian and the perlite, as I obviously showed you before. So they're basically going into the same mix that they were already in, but now they're going into their individual pots. And then I'm just going to continue and repeat this. And then once again, I've only got the one label from the original pot, which I'll place in. And then obviously I'll write out 5 more labels for the remaining seedlings. Okay, so once you've repotted all of your plants, as you can see I split the 6 seedlings into 6 individual pots. I've decided to use a bigger pot for the biggest seedling and then go like this, which I'll write out labels in a second. And these are the 2 that I firstly did. And then simply the last thing left to do is to water them in. And when you're doing it like this, you want to water them from above. It allows the soil to settle a bit around the plant as well. You want to use a watering can with a rose on the top, just so you get a bit more even coverage. And you're simply then going to water your plants in. like that. And then you can leave them sitting in water to soak up the excess amount, just so that they're saturated all the way through. And that is it. That's simply how you repot and divide your Venus flytrap. Despite it being cooler at this time of year, this is the perfect time of year to tend to your carnivorous plants, as this is when most of the maintenance will be done with your plants, as you'll be cutting a lot back in the dormancy period. As well as this, you'll also be able to do dividing, repotting and even propagation on some temperate carnivorous plant species, which makes it a great way to get involved with your collection as you look forward to spring to the following year. It's a great time of year just to make sure that your plants are ready and set for the new growing season.